I overheard some Christians speak about doing the boule, going to do boule. Exactly what is boule?
The boule is a fraternity that was started by black men, patterned after the white version of Skull and Bones. And the boule are the ones, we would call them house Negroes. When I call them house Negroes, I use the word K-N-E-E-G-R-O, because what they do is they work on behalf of white supremacy against their own people. And at the same time, win the people's trust in their leadership. In other words, you're being deceived. Living in America, either you're gonna work for somebody or you're gonna work for yourself. Malcolm X did a speech in the early 60s called Message to the Grassroots. In this speech, he mentioned the big six civil rights leaders, and they all had two things in common. They were all boule and they were all Masons. Now, why is that? Is that a coincidence? Because that's how they practice. The NAACP, the Urban League, was founded in 1909 by white folks and Jews. But for some reason, black people think they were founded by black people on behalf of black people. That's not true. In other words, they just want to control your problems. The conflict that you have with this system, they want to manipulate you and influence you and control you by you thinking that you got some organization that's in your corner when it's in fact not. The same people that created the Federal Reserve Bank, the same people that created the League of Nations that eventually became the United Nations, the same people that created the Council on Foreign Relations, are the same people that created the NAACP and the Urban League, the boule. These people are deceivers. A lot of preachers, I hate to say it, the devil have preachers. The devil has ministers. In other words, the devil masquerades as an angel of light, and his ministers masquerade as the angels of the ministers of righteousness. So just because you feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, giving shelter to the homeless, that don't mean you are a child of God.
If you will. And the emasculation, just the look and what they do to join these organizations. You know, some may find this funny, but to me, this is disturbing. And this says a lot how these organizations have been around for hundreds of years. And what do they have to show for it?
Anything that, when you think about Omega Psi Phi, the one thing that we're associated with is excellence. We're constantly striving to be great. One of the things that I'm popular for saying is that I'm great because I
After witnessing a fellow Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority sister become vice president of the United States.
Seeing that she came from our Alpha chapter and that's where our founders started, it really just made it at whole to see that our organization is a strong unit.
Of the illustrious founders of Omega Psi Phi. Of the illustrious founders of Omega Psi Phi.
Elected its first black senator, and America sent a black woman to the White House, both members of the Divine Nine.
If you guys understand the history of Greeks and African people, you know, Greeks, the Roman civilization, they slaughtered black people. So joining these quote unquote black letter, Greek letter fraternities and sororities is really equivalent to a black man or a woman joining the KKK. Joining these quote unquote black letter, Greek letter fraternities and sororities is really equivalent to a black man or a woman joining the KKK.
Joining these quote unquote black letter, Greek letter fraternities and sororities is really equivalent to a black man or a woman joining the KKK.
That's what it comes down to. It's equivalent to joining the KKK because of the history of the mistreatment, execution, and complete annihilation of black people from the hands of Greeks. But the problem is it happened thousands and thousands of years ago, right? In comparison to what the dominant white society did in the last, they're continuing to do it today, but the overt racism of black people by the dominant white society was more recent in comparison to what Greek civilization did against black people. But again, it's like I said, it's equivalent to a black male or a black woman joining the KKK. All right. And you guys already know, the dominant white society, racist white supremacy would never allow a black man or a woman to join the KKK or any white supremacist organization, period. Back in the day, black people wanted to be a part of these Greek letter fraternities, right? During the Jim Crow era, et cetera, et cetera. They wanted to be a part of these Greek letter fraternities and sororities, et cetera. The dominant white society wouldn't accept them. So what did black people do? They started their own black organizations for sororities, right? For fraternities. Black Greek letter organizations were born. That basically birthed the sororities and fraternities, which you guys call the Divine Nine.
President Joe Biden invited about 400 people to watch him commemorate Black History Month, where he said Black history matters, and he also said this.
And by the way, I'm not, I may be a white boy, but I'm not stupid. I know where the power is. I know where you think I'm joking. I learned a long time ago about the Divine Nine.
Yes, you heard him right. He gave credit to the Divine Nine while saying that he may be white, but he is not stupid.
The Divine Nine is, you got the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, the Kappa Alpha Psi, the Omega Psi Phi, Delta Sigma Theta, Phi Beta Sigma, Zeta Phi Beta, Sigma Gamma Rio, and Iota Phi Theta fraternities. Those are the Divine Nine.
This right here was over a decade ago, probably 12 years ago. I know some of y'all might say I still look exactly the same. And not only did I participate in the hazing process, but I also pledged people. I was what you call the DP. That's me right there. And DP, if you don't know what that is, that's the Dean of Pledges. So that means that you're primarily responsible for bringing over an entire line. Let's go to the period that was called the Hellenistic period. So you call yourself the Pan-Hellenic Council, but the Hellenistic period was the worst period for African people, because it's during this period when Alexander came into Africa, 332 BC, and conquered Egypt.
Now you go study, you look up that word boule, B-O-U-L-E, and you'll find out this is what most of these supposedly civil rights people belong to. And when I give you this understanding, you will know why we never get anything accomplished.
But the premise of them were founded around white supremacy. It's called the illusion of inclusion.